Okay, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk briefly about the Dixieland Airhorn. Basically, you see the instructions are right here. I hooked up everything according to this diagram down here, and I did plug it in. Let's see, what did I do? I grabbed some RC batteries here, 7.4 volt, and I put them in series, and basically they're 14 volts. Well, almost 15 volts actually, after I hook them in series like I did. And when I did that, went ahead and plugged it into this right here, this compressor. You can see it's got a little bit of silicone lubricant that I sprayed in there. The reason why I did that is because silicone lubricant is usually what you want to use on plastics and rubbers and that kind of stuff. And this thing drags pretty hard, just so you know. It's power hungry little bastard, let me tell you that. I don't know if there's some friction going on inside there, or you know, it just has that much compression, like, you know, it's really pushing hard to get air out, or whatever it is, or a combination of everything. You know, obviously an air compressor like so, you pour oil in it to get the cylinders to, you know, keep from self-destructing basically and overheating. So I did have this thing apart before. If you want to know why, go to my video that I had, the unboxing review of this, and I'll explain more in there why I actually did take this thing apart. But I did take it apart. I did kind of sort of modify it, put a better O-ring in one spot, which is rubber, which is again why I use the silicone lubricant. And basically I'm just explaining why you saw that oil slick here, because that's what that was. And then of course I operated this thing, and in doing so it'll draw it in there and kind of lubricate everything, and that is the last time I plan to do that. So this silicone will evaporate off at some point and become dry, and it should not, you know, have dirt and that kind of stuff stick in there, but you know, it's going to get some dirt in here, but let's just hope not much, right? Okay, awesome. So right on to what we're doing here. We are going to now install this thing in my 65 F Fun 100, and I'm trying to figure out how to do that. But real quick, let's just kind of go over this. Basically, I got a piece of 1/8 inch aluminum. I don't remember exactly the gauge. I mean, I can't remember what gauge it was, but I want to say it was 16 or 14 gauge, something like that, or there was some way that they had it all, you know, sought out or whatever. But anyway, the other thing that I also did with this, just so that you know, this aluminum was like the stuff that is for like high corrosion, you know, because there's several different types of aluminum. I'm not, honestly, I apologize for not having all this information on hand, but it's just that, you know, these videos are done on the fly, and I'm always researching this stuff beforehand, etc., and then I buy it, and then after that I just kind of forget about it because I've already done the research, right? But if you do your research, you'll find that there's different styles of aluminum for different reasons, and this aluminum happens to be a certain alloy that would resist corrosion. And the reason why I did that is because I knew that this would be under the hood, but actually my original intention was to put this underneath the pickup itself. And the reason why I want to put it under the pickup is because I don't want to put it under the hood. Okay? I don't want it to look junky and clunky underneath the hood. However, for the sake of getting it in, for the sake of the philosophy of, you know, just get it running, don't worry about what it looks like, I'm going to probably use some rivet nuts and install this thing today underneath the hood, so that way it's installed, it's hooked up, it's operational, and I'm legal, meaning I have a horn that legally you're supposed to have, and even though it's kind of a cool one and maybe even annoying one to some people, but my point is that I will be legal at that point, which is really what I'm after. I'm after getting legal. because the only way to get, now the original horn is actually in the truck, mounted up in front of the radiator support. The problem is I have no idea what the wiring is like to it. And I also know that the steering wheel, all that part there for the horn to work is, it's really messed up. So I'm not going to spend that kind of time, because the replacement, when I go to swap this pickup over to the other frame, if you've been following me, you'll know this, but when I swap it over to the other frame, it's going to get a different steering column, an aftermarket steering column, and all that wiring, of course, is brand new, and of course you would expect that it's going to actually work. So that's when I'm going to actually, use that to actually be the real horn like it should be. But then again, will I? Because I'm not even sure I'm going to do that, because I plan to have a removable steering wheel, one that you just pop and the steering wheel comes off. Kind of a bit of an anti-theft device, maybe not necessarily for the people that are out there, but more like the relatives and friends and family that I have here, actually, honestly. So, anyway, it's the truth, right? Ask my mom how many times I stole her Firebird in high school and went for a drive, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So I got this thing all set up here. As you can see, I got this piece of aluminum, and I used to be in a machine shop environment, having benders and all that kind of stuff, and honestly, this was done with some angle iron pieces. I think there they are, right there. They're about 12, 13 inches long, and I put them in that vise the best I could. And then when I couldn't get it to fit in the vise, what I did was I removed this mat here, and I used some wood clamps. I put the angle iron here, and then I put the other angle iron on top, and then I clamped it down, and then I just slowly started to push. And I use the plastic hammer, and I also use a rubber mallet hammer and kind of beat on it a little bit to get it to bend over and finally stress relieve itself, so to speak, to hold its shape. And you can see that I did actually pretty good, considering, but I'll tell you this, if I didn't have all my machine shop experience, this would have been a lot more difficult, because that was my line, for example, and you can see how far off I was from my line of actually bending, and that just had a lot to do with the fact that by clamping it here, and when I started hammering, it started moving. And that's the cool thing about machine shop equipment. It like comes down, and it's got like a clamp press, and then it just works so much nicer. But anyway, even though I was off my lines a little bit, the important thing is that you can see that everything is below the surface of these mounting flanges, and that's the most important thing that I wanted, because when I go to mount it, whether I mount it like this right here, or I mount it underneath, up against the floor like this, everything fits. Nothing will be in the way here as far as touching something. So what I did, bent all of that. I haven't drilled the holes yet because I don't know exactly where I'm putting this thing, but I have an idea now where I'm going to be putting it temporarily. I used the bolts and nuts and the hardware that came with this kit. The only thing that I did not use, there were these wire clamps that went here for this, and those are junk. Obviously Chinese ingenuity or whatever. In other words, as cheap as possible. And I actually slipped one over the top of it, and when I let go, it just kind of like literally I could twirl it. It was so weak and loose, there was no point. The good news is that this tubing went on really really tight. So like I had to push on it. In fact, come to think of it, I did use silicone lubricant inside here to help slip these on after the first one. When I put the first one on, it was a little difficult, but then I started using silicone lubricant, and they started sliding on much easier. But if you've ever used silicone lubricant before, you know that you have like a few seconds before it kind of doesn't work anymore, and it becomes like what it normally is. So you got to work kind of fast. The amount of hose that was inside of this kit was just enough, but I did have to splice. Let me explain that. You can obviously see here that this is the arrangement that it shows. So if you would have had your compressor right over here with all the hose attachments closest to the compressor, then you would probably have plenty of hose, okay? But as you can see, I went, you know, with one hose attachment here, and then the next one I flipped around, pointing it that way, pointing it this way, pointing it that way, pointing it this way. Now, two theories or two reasons why I did this. Number one, I wanted this stuff to fit compact, as close together as possible. And by flipping them around like that, that allows that to happen. Number two, as you can see here, I put some wire here, okay? And I wanted to do that for strength because the bolts that go through here are in these plastic. These are plastic. This whole thing is plastic, which is fine. But that's where the metal bolts are right there. And they go in there and they kind of, you know, like they fit to the bolt head to where the bolt head can't turn anymore. So that way, when you're on the backside here and you tighten it down, you don't have to have some sort of wrench in there to hang on to that bolt to where it doesn't turn, right? That's the whole idea anyway, okay? But, you know, I don't trust this plastic. As you know, when plastic ages and that kind of stuff, it tends to break. But also, if you just bolt it down with that bolt right there, this is it. So you got this horn out here, just, you know, the weight of this entire, which is not heavy. It's plastic, obviously. But my point is that going down the road, vibration, all that kind of stuff tends to get these things a flopping, you know, maybe. And it could break off. So what I decided to do also, for the reason of flipping them in the end like this, is that you can see that you bolt here, you bolt there, you bolt there. Then you come over here and you bolt on this side on two pieces, right? And then you put the wire right down the center. This is pretty stiff wire. This is welding wire is what this is. Pretty stiff wire, and I tried to, you know, wrap it as tight as I can. I don't want to go so tight that it started, you know, actually breaking this, right? Because I was tugging on it a little bit, just gently as I could. And I wrapped it around several times, etc. And now this is much stronger because you have it tied at this end, tied at this end, and then all of them tied together right here about in the center. Yeah, it doesn't look pretty, kind of ugly or whatever, but guess what? This is eventually going to end up underneath the pickup. Nobody's ever going to know. This wire will rust probably, and I don't really care because it's not going to hurt the plastic at all. So that is the mentality of why I went the way I did. So I didn't follow this diagram on how to lay out the horns. So you have to pay attention with that because that means this is number 1, according to that diagram. And this is number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. And then that is where you start hooking in to, you might be able to see it, there it is, number 4, number 5, and then you start hooking everything up. So, if I remember right, I started with the longest one, which was, no, I did not start with, well, I started with the longest horn. I started right here at number 5, I think. Or maybe, I don't remember what I did. Maybe I actually did start at 1 and then kept on going. But anyway, my point is that this is what I was trying to avoid. I was trying to avoid kinking. You can see this one here is kind of sort of kinking over. Maybe I can work it here. I'll probably have to do it off camera. But anyway, basically I got it to where one hose had to be spliced. This one right here. This hose right here to number, what would be 4, had to be spliced. And you can see there I used a clear Bic pin barrel to splice in the hoses, and I had, I don't know, maybe like that much hose left. So I made this one here just fit as well, and I had like, I clipped off about that much hose. So I barely got away with it. but luckily I was able to get away with it without having to go out and find some more hose. This wasn't kinked like this the other day, this one here. And by the way, I just tested this thing, and I'm not going to do it in the video because I got to get the battery and all that stuff out. Trust me, this thing works, and it's loud. I wear earmuffs when I try this, and trust me, it's loud. It's really loud. I can hear it through my earmuffs, no problem. These earmuffs right there, I can hear this thing plenty well. And everybody in my house upstairs above me said that they can hear it just fine. So anyway, it's loud and it works, and I'm going to probably work on this kink here a little bit out here off camera. So this is how I got it mounted on here, and I was able to use all the hose. I had to, you know, use that Bic barrel to actually, you know, make the splice. Here we go. There it is right there. There's the other part of the pin. See, this is why I keep shit, because you never know what you're going to need, right? All right, so you just need to know where you put it at some point, right? Got it all mounted on here, and what makes this nice is that this is now a protector. It's aluminum, so it shouldn't rust. There is like a peel coating that is put on this aluminum, and I did not peel it off because I don't care. Again, this is going to go under the truck. I'm at some point, so I don't care. I don't plan on painting it. If I do, I mean, I can always, there you go. There's a good shot of it right there. You can see it. I could peel this off, and this would all be, you know, nice, shiny, or you know, raw aluminum, as they call it. Oh, here we go. There we go. 0.063 7075 aluminum. There you go. That's the grade and the size of this aluminum plate here that I'm using. So, I used the hardware. I actually put Loctite, this stuff right here. Or was it the other one? No, it was this one here. It was actually this one, sorry. Loctite 271, which is the adhesive sealant. I put them on these threads here so that they will never, hopefully, come loose from vibration and heat and all that kind of stuff. So there you go. And then of course you can see I actually ground them off so that they weren't sticking down. Plus they weren't sharp or anything like that. So you have to be careful when you're grinding on this. If you did like what I did, I ground these off when they were in here, and it'll get hot enough to where these things, that bolt will start to melt in there. So be careful if you're doing it that way like I did, because I found out on one of them, but I managed to save it, so we're all good. All right, so now positive and negative terminal right there. This is what you're gonna need. So you'll need like a this is the spade, so you'll need the female version of it, which basically like this. This is what I tested it with on my little test jig right there. Again, nice and loud. This is going to go underneath the truck at some point. And it's probably going to go underneath the driver's seat is where I'm thinking I'm going to put it. I'm not going to do it now because it's going to take too much time for me to do that. Because as you can see, it's kind of windy out, a little chilly today. It's actually a nice day, and it's not going to last much longer. It's supposed to get pretty crappy tomorrow, and I want to get this into today. I have a relay sitting right here that I'm not using, and it's ready to go. All I got to do is just use it and hook it into that button inside that I got. So I want to do that, and in order to get this thing going today, what I want to do, here's my hookup right there, my compressor, and I'm thinking about taking some rivet nuts and putting them right here and right there, and then there you go. Now, see how ugly this looks? This looks ugly underneath the hood here, doesn't it? I would totally agree with that sentiment. I don't like it, but with rivet nuts, I can drill a hole, put the rivet nut, drill the holes in here, bolt it down. I can take that sucker right there and I can bolt it down over there, and I can hook into the relay, which is right here. Here's the this is where I would actually solder into. I can ground it right here. I can do everything right here, and hook up to my horn switch inside, and I'm done. I'm ready to go, and it's legal at that point, and I'll drive it like this, and it'll be fine. And because I have it rivet nutted here, and I've got a bolt there and a bolt there, if I ever need to do any work on this stuff, it's simply just unbolt, unplug, and take it out. And so that's going to be handy. If you've been following me, you already know this, but that's the frame that I'm going to rebuild. New powertrain, automatic overdrive, you know, fuel tank in the back, all that kind of stuff. And that is when I'll take this body and swap over to there when it's ready. And then when I do that, that's when this will be mounted underneath the cab of the truck somewhere, or someplace else. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll stuff the horn down in here on the front of the radiator support or something. I'll do something way different. There's the original horn right there. But my point is that I'm not going to do that today, because again, back to that point, this thing is very power hungry. The 14 gauge wires that I had on those battery packs in there that I was using, actually, now that I think about it, those are 12 gauge. But this testing thing right here, as you can see, is 14 gauge. This is 14 gauge copper here. The battery packs, they're actually using a 12 gauge wire. And when I plug that thing in, and I would have that thing going off, right, you know, because I just plugged it in. I don't have like a button to turn it off or on. I just plugged it in and it started going off, and it just keeps cycling over and over. And I let it do that, like, you know, I don't know, 5 or 10 times, right? I was kind of laughing and having fun with it. And the point that I want to make is that the wiring got warm, pretty warm, as a matter of fact. So I don't know what that is. I don't know. I really don't know what the voltage or amp rating, I should say. I don't know what that thing is, but, and that was the other reason why I put that silicone spray in there, is because I'm hoping that'll kind of loosen it up a little bit, or I don't know, maybe it'll make it worse. Maybe it makes it compress more air better or something. I don't know. But all I do know is that the 14 gauge wiring was getting pretty warm after, you know, like about 10 times of just continuously running. It wasn't like it was going to melt in half, but I'm just saying that it if you let that thing run for a full, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes, it might get those wires pretty hot, those 14 gauge wires. Now, that's the other thing, that's the other reason why I want to put it here right now, because in order to run this thing, obviously you want to run it through a relay. Now this relay here happens to have 14 gauge wire. I've got some relays with 12, and I'm going to have to run a 12 gauge wire all the way over there and down to there, to where this is going to be located underneath there, because again, this thing is power hungry. I was very much impressed with how warm those wires got, how quick they did. So in order to keep, you know, the system from failing and burning up or whatever, because if you make that wire really long, 14 gauge, you're probably going to be able to run the horn once or twice, and then that's it. I'm trying to grab this because the wind's blowing. I don't want it blowing off, but and I'm hoping it's not affecting the microphone too much. But the point is that you gotta you know, gauge this thing, wire this thing properly, so you don't start a fire or have a system failure. And of course, that's the other reason why I want to do it right here, right now, because this thing, I don't have the fuse in it, but I will put a fuse in it, and so I can fuse it to whatever I think it will use as far as power. I got a ammeter I can put on there and actually see what kind of current that thing's drawing, and I might do that. But point is, this will be the fastest way to do this and get it done today. So that's probably what I'm going to do. Rivet nut, bolt it right there, hook it into that relay that is right there, and because it's 14 gauge but a very short run of wire, it should be it should be fine. It should not get that warm, and it should work, make me legal, which is the most important thing. And then again, when I get the frame done and everything, I'm gonna go inside now because the wind, I'm pretty sure, is messing with the microphone, and I'm getting tired of getting blown around. But anyway, yeah, it's that's the whole plan, is to put this thing in today, get it to where it's legal and running, and then later when I swap that body over, that's when I'll actually move this thing. So there you have it. That's what I'm doing with myself today, at least for the moment anyway. I got some work that I need to be doing on my computer here this evening for my job. But anyway, just for my own little self of relaxation, if you want to call it, because this is the kind of stuff that stress relieves me for sure, is working on my own stuff, seeing accomplishments happen, you know, getting the ability to concentrate on something. This is stress relief for me. So, and I kind of like doing this. Do I like doing it as a job? I don't know if I would, but I like doing it for me, that's for sure, and that's okay. All right, like, subscribe, and rumble, and ask questions, make insults. I don't care what you do. Let's just try to share information so everybody kind of sees how, you know, people do things and why they do things, and maybe it gives you ideas, sparks enthusiasm, and you know, whatever for you, and to help you get started on your project or finish it or add to it or whatever you want to say. And at least inspire you to get up off your ass and get off the damn phone. So after you're done with this video, get your ass off the fucking phone and get out there and do something with yourself, right? And start recording yourself, right? In other words, be informative for everybody else as well, because, you know, I kind of watch other people every once in a while. Maybe I might watch your dumb ass, huh? All right, awesome. See ya. Bye.